Welcome back yet again to another episode of Lore and Loot. Today we're going to take a trip and learn about a new town, but first we need to speak with Ida's FireEye and get another Fighters Guild contract. Today she needs us to retrieve some debt money from someone called Desele. She apparently owes one of the guild's clients some money, and we are to travel to Suran and collect the 200 septims from her. Now, a few episodes ago, we spoke to Perseus Mercius, the former Fighters Guild guildmaster, and we found out that if we ever have any questions about any guild jobs, we can go speak with him and he will give us advice on how to proceed. Well, we're going to go ahead and travel to Alderun's Fighter Guild and ask him if he has any views on this job. Interestingly, he tells us he suspects that this is not a legitimate guild contract. He reveals to us that the client for whom we are retrieving this money is a man named Manos Othroleth. Manos Othroleth works for Orvas Dren, who happens to be a big-time Kimona Tong member, as well as a high-ranking member of House Lalu. Essentially, it appears that the Fighters Guild is being used by the Kimona Tong to do some of its dirty work, namely shaking down merchants. Not really feeling great about that, but let's make up our mind once we have a little more information. Now, Manos Othroleth can be found over at the Dren plantation, but he really doesn't have a lot to say right now. If we return to him after we have completed the quest, he will have some different dialogue, but it's really nothing interesting or worth mentioning. We know that we need to get to Suran, and we could take the Silt Strider there, but as you probably already know by now, there is adventure to be had if we walk there, and besides, this series is about getting to know Vardenfell, and we can hardly get to know this amazing place if we don't travel it by foot. The road to Suran takes us through some familiar turf. Making our way across the bridge south of Balmora, we need to head back towards Fort Moonmoth. Past the fort, we'll be back in Foyana Mamea, the volcanic path we used to get to Balmora many episodes ago. We'll turn south and immediately head back out of the Foyata and enter the Ascadian Isles region. Once we've vanquished this evil rat, we'll notice that we're at the same crossroads from one of the first episodes, the road to Balmora. If we head south to our right, we'll end up back in Pelagiad. We will instead head east and follow the road sign towards Suran. To our right is Lake Amaya, which looks really cool at night, but even more amazing during sunrise. Listening to the main Morrowind theme during a sunrise is about as cliche as anything I can think of in this game, but man, is it awesome. Continuing down the road, we get accosted by a Kagudi. This is the first time we encounter one of these enormous creatures. However, this is no typical Kagudi. This is a mating Kagudi. Just down the hill here, we see Thorinor, the wood elf. So let's talk to him.
If I can help, I will, but don't take too much time.
Hello, please might you be of some assistance? My friend is lost and I'm very worried about him. Very well, Thorinor. Tell me about your friend. Yes, my friend Edris Oral. He and I were traveling to Vivek and he heard a strange animal sound nearby. He's sort of an amateur naturalist and he felt compelled to seek out what was making the noise. That was hours ago and I'm afraid something terrible has happened to him. If you could find him and bring him back safely, I would really appreciate it. I'd go myself, but I'm really more of a scholar, as is he. That's why we were traveling together. A little safety in numbers, you know. Can you help? Very well, I will try to find your friend. We'll continue on the road towards the direction where the Kaguti charged from, and sure enough, here comes the other maiden Kaguti. On the hill where the Kaguti was, we see a book. Kaguti Mating Habits by Edris Oral. This isn't a good sign. We found his book, but we didn't find him. Let's hope these aggressive Kaguti didn't kill him. Thankfully, going over the next small hill, we find Edris. Apparently, when he heard the sounds, the Kaguti attacked him and he was trapped here with the aggressive mating animals between him and his friend.
What do you want?
Thankfully, we've taken care of the Kaguti and they were a pretty tough fight individually. I can only imagine how bad it would have been if they both attacked me at once. It's likely they would have killed Edris Oral if he hadn't run away. Anyways, once we lead him back to his friend, our journal updates, and we can talk to Thorinor for a thanks
My time is
and a
short, so
reward.
get on with it.
Our reward is the Amulet of Slow Falling, an exquisite amulet enchanted with the spell Slow Falling, which it casts on the user for 30 points for 10 seconds. Now, Slow Falling is a magic spell that, as the name suggests, slows the speed at which you fall, meaning that if you jump off a ledge, which would normally kill you upon landing, depending on the magnitude of slow fall, you would either take less damage or maybe no damage at all. This is actually a really nifty amulet if you're playing like a ninja assassin that jumps from rooftop to rooftop or from high roofs and cliffs to escape the guards. I've used it many times before for this sort of run. It's quite a lot of fun actually. It actually works kind of good with the Scrolls of Icarian Flight, a set of scrolls that gives you really high acrobatics but also has a very short duration. Anyways, this was an unexpected little distraction, but we've done a good deed here by helping these two fine gentlemen out. We've also learned that Kaguti are not to be trifled with, as they can be pretty nasty. Moving on, we'll eventually come across a small farmstead. Here we can see some of the crops grown here in Vardenfell. Here we see the typical fare, salt rice here in Marshmarrow, as well as comberry. Over there we see corkbulb. Further down the road, we come across Ula's Manor, and off in the distance we see the silt strider for the town of Suran. As is our tradition, once we reach a city for the first time, we're going to take a tour of it. So here's the tour of Suran. Suran is a medium-sized town on the edge of Lake Masobi. To the west, across the Nabia River here, you can see the Ulas Manor, which we already saw. To the southwest, across the lake, is the rich farmlands of the Ascadian Isles region. Here we can see many small farms. Suran can be divided into 3 districts. Now these are my divisions, this isn't anything official, but I like to call it the lower district, the upper district, and then the Oran Manor and the temple. The lower district has many shops and is right on the waterfront and is right down the stairs from the entrance to town. From the stairs, working our way clockwise, we have Golden Bellarum, the pawnbroker, Garothmuk Gromuzgub, the smith, Desele's House of Earthly Delights, our destination, and next to it is Renoso Gilvain, the outfitter. Now, at the top of the stairs, right by the entrance here, we have the Suran Slave Market, a 2-floor building with slaves for sale. Going further up the stairs, we reach the upper district. There are a few stores here as well, and the first is Verona Rendo, the clothier. A little further down the street is Rald's Oral, the trader. Behind the trader here is the local tavern slash pub, whatever you want to call it, the Suran Trade House. And around the back of the trade house here, we find Ebamadad Asimarari, the local apothecary. Now, a name like that usually means that it's run by one of the local Dunmer, the Ashlanders. These are the native people of Vardenfell. They tend to have names like this. Now, just next to it, the apothecary is the local tribunal temple, and just to the west of the temple is Oran Manor, home to the governor of Suran, Sergio Avon Oran of House Lalu. Suran really is a nice little waterfront town that seems to be quite the trading hub. There's also another exit out of town to the south of town, and it leads to the Barren and Ashen Molag Amor region, which is very similar to the Ashlands further north. And that's the tour of Suran. Like I said, it's really a nice town with a lot of merchants and things to buy, but we're not here for shopping. We have a job to do. Now, as I walk into the town, I see a cliff racer up ahead, but it leaves me alone, so I'll just continue on inside. Entering the House of Earthly Delights, we see exactly what kind of establishment this is. We have some scantily clad women doing a strange dance up there, while a few patrons look on.
What do you want?
Disgusting.
A strange Breton stands alone by the wall, and behind the counter we have Helvain Desele, the person we're looking for.
Questions? So what do you want?
All right, listen, we've got to talk about this debt money you owe. Well, naturally she's not inclined to talk to us about this, so let's take a quick look upstairs. Nothing really going on here, a small stage for a lute player, nothing more. So let's go back downstairs and talk to her again. We really must insist in talking about this debt money, so we're going to use our tried and true bribe technique. Now, we have to get her over 75 disposition for her to pay us the money she owes. However, if we get her just right, just in between, she'll tell us exactly what this debt money really is. It's protection money for the Kimona Tong. It's just as Perseus Mercius feared. We really are being used as pawns for the Kimona Tong. Now, Perseus Mercius said that we should try to pay the debt ourselves, so let's head back to Balmora and see if we can pay the debt. On my way outside, however, I hear combat music, but I can't place the source of it. Finally, I see it. The stupid cliff racer from before has come to attack the town, and only I can save Suran from absolute destruction. So I buff and pull out my silver claymore and... he's glitched. Well, this was a letdown. Here I thought we were going to have this epic fight, but no, guess not. Now I'm going to try to draw it to me by climbing up high, maybe to its level, but it doesn't seem to be moving from its place, so... Oh well. Now I don't want to walk back to Balmora, so I'm going to go ahead and take the Silt Strider to Balmora, but on my way up the stairs... Holy crap, that genuinely scared me while I was playing. Anyways, Cliff Racer vanquished. Now back in Balmora, I'll go ahead and try to pay the debt, but there's no option to do so. That's right, despite the advice Perseus Mercius gives us, there's really no way to pay the debt on behalf of Helviane. Unfortunately, we have to get the money from her. But if you think about it, though, we kind of are paying it off ourselves. I mean, we've given her 200 gold in bribe money to get her to talk to us anyway, so if she gives us 200 gold, it's really like if she didn't pay anything at all. That's how I like to think about it anyways. Now back in Suran, we go back inside the House of Earthly Delights and bribe Helviane once more to get her over 75, and she pays us the money. In the end, she ended up making money. Crazy. Now we can really return to Ida's Fire Eye and finish this quest.
The right place.
And that's it, folks. The story of Desele's debt, Tour of Suran, as well as the unmarked quest, the Scholars, and the Maiden Kagudi. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Lore and Loot Morrowind, and I hope you'll join me next time.